the whole cottage industry of like, I don't know. I mean, it's always been, it's with everything of like, telling you how to succeed at this business. And it's like, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Middlemen on middlemen on middlemen. Like,
Yeah, that's all it is. That's all it is. Everybody just selling you somebody else's shit.
We're all trying to get that last 5% of the pie.
Right. That's we're scrounging here at the bottom while Jeff Bezos is blasting off in outer space.
Oh, I forgot where I heard it, but if someone was like, instead of like stop trying to bleed water from a stone, they're like, what if we just tried even harder to bleed an infinitesimally smaller amount of water from this stone?
Yeah. Keep grinding.
Only way to do it. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey folks.
And we are back as always to talk about some video games, and this week we've all been pretty darn busy. I just started up a new job myself, just had my third day of training today, so I'm pretty spent, pretty wiped, but yeah, it's been a little while, so I'm happy to be back at that. But yeah, we've all been kind of chipping away. Like I said, we've all been pretty busy with work and stuff lately, so we've kind of been chipping away at some stuff that we've talked about in the past, so we'll be a little more conversational this week. But yeah, why don't we kick it over to John first for some of the stuff that you've been playing, and then we'll kind of veer off into some conversation from that, I'm sure, as well.
So I want to start mine off with a disclaimer. This is not an endorsement of this game, and I am in no way telling anyone to go out and play it unless you already are playing it and are in a healthy relationship with
free-to-play games.
Is that how that goes? Is that a possibility?
I've actually been doing pretty well. I don't think I've spent money on this game in year or more.
Wow.
Which has been nice.
When you did spend money, it was like minimal, like just little purchase. Like you weren't spending for like a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely have spent, I would say, under the cost of like a AAA game.
Wow.
But
okay.
More than a indie game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I'm talking about Genshin Impact, which at the time of recording they just released their newest patch, which is 4.0 Fontaine, which is the Hydro country, and it is a patch that has been in the works and has been the focus of the... Good God, I can't speak right now. Anyway.
It's too early for this.
Yeah, it is too early
Fresh
for this.
Fresh start, or?
Whatever. Who cares? Anyway, I don't care enough about this game to give it...
it's Genshin Impact.
It's Genshin Impact. But yeah, the main draw of this update has been that because it's the hydro country of Fontaine, which is based on the Mediterranean, it's an amalgamation of Italy, France, and Spain all in one. And it's actually really beautiful and great in terms of like aesthetics. But a huge part of it is that there's a lot of underwater travel in this. You could swim in like the game before, and like you had a stamina wheel, so like you couldn't be swimming forever because then your character would just drown, and then it would be an automatic respawn at like the point where you left. And then there was the country Inazuma, which is an island country, and you had to get a boat that would take you from area to area. So they've always had like incorporated like water travel into the game, but this is the first time that they're like, okay, in this country, because it's the power of hydro is everywhere, and like all of the people who live here and are born here have the power of hydro in them. Like, you can swim forever and you can dive underwater and have limitless air. So it really did like completely change and revamp how you interact with the environment. And they added entire areas that like there's now like depth levels, which is very similar to Tears of the Kingdom in terms of map, where like because even in the previous update, like they had a lot of underground areas, but the map didn't change, so it was just like impossible to navigate. But now they retroactively added in a lower level maps for those areas, so I'm excited to actually go back and be able to find my way around those areas. But the main focus is this like underwater like combat travel mechanic, and it really, we had been talking on the podcast about Tears of the Kingdom and how like movement in 3D space just is extremely satisfying in that game. And I want more than anything after like playing this update for a few days is like people need to be ripping this off and doing it and blowing it up into like their own games. Like I want more people to be making like actual underwater levels and not just like, or underwater games and not necessarily have it be like in other waters where it's a lot of like, you know, slow, deliberate like exploration and you are constrained by like
even like Subnautica or something.
There's
like
a
that.
few of those ones that were like that.
Kind of like mysterious. They're almost like horror games in their own, in like a way, like mysterious, like what's going on. And, you know, but they're like kind of empty and there's not, you're kind of more exploring the emptiness, I guess, or whatever, you know.
And like really, I was really hard pressed to try to think of like a game that like gives you full control, because so much of like what water levels is like either a slowing down or a reducing of your controls that you'd have like on land or something. So like obviously I'm thinking of like all the Mario games and their the water levels and like how that changes how platforming works, or like even thinking of like in Star Fox how they have an underwater level and that like just really is a different control scheme for the same like on rails shooting, but like not have it be like the Landmaster levels. It's like what is that? Is it the blue? I don't remember.
God. I was gonna say I don't know if I've ever taken that path because I don't think I've ever played any underwater
chugs
stages.
on that level too.
It chugs it's
bad.
So dark. It's but it's a great level. Cool. But there's only one underwater level in Star Fox 64.
Yep, it's on the left.
Yeah, it's like. All underwater levels seem to be like gimmicks or like very restrictive, and like this is the first one that I felt like empowered or something. Like you have total control in 3D space, and like you're floating. Like you can stay still in like a point in space and then move your camera 360 or whatever, a sphere like all around full you rotation, so you can have it like loop completely under you or over you and like recenter, and then you always have an ascend and a descend button and then an accelerate, but then it removes your control to attack like you would on land and replaces it with like an auto aim like water attack. So like think of like, I don't know, like a usually it's like a lightning attack is like the thing that when anytime you have like an auto aim like attack, I'm thinking of like Wizard of Legend or like in Castlevania.
Like where it kind of chains into other enemies or whatever. If it like
But then like you can encounter other enemies and like those, like if you defeat those enemies or hit them with your attack, then you get a different secondary attack, and so one of them gives you a shield, one of them sends out like sonar like projectiles, and another one sends out like a like blade projectile, and like it's a lot of really good mechanics that I wish was in a game that wasn't Genshin Impact. Like I really want someone other than MiHoYo to do this type of like gameplay experience, and like it's incredible. Like I love the way that it feels to move around in this space, and like it's really
you
fun.
were saying it was like almost like kind of like tank controls, and that kind of had piqued my interest a little bit, because I do like it, because it's interesting because the way you were saying you kind of stay stationary and then until you're like moving or whatever. I couldn't think of any specific, but I know I've played some like 2D indie games recently, and maybe even retro games too, but where you're like even in side-scrolling form, your character just kind of stays there and you're just literally kind of pressing up, down, left, or right to just kind of like steer your character. Whereas like, in Mario, you're kind of more, or Donkey Kong Country or whatever, you're kind of like feathering the jump button to kind of stay afloat. And it's all about like
unless you got the frog suit,
how hard you're holding it down. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see that? Yeah, the frog suit kind of controls like I was trying to describe, like where you can just kind of steer yourself underwater, like almost like you're just controlling like a top-down character at that point. and just
100%.
just steering up, down, left, right, and that is I've come to really enjoy that, where I used to like think like water levels, oh, that sucks, where I've now played quite a few games where like, I can't say that they're generally my favorite part of the game, but I've definitely played some cool games that incorporate that in a cool way. And I do like when it is more than just like, let's just slow down the pace a little bit and, just throw
make
a twist,
it a low gravity platformer. Like,
exactly. Right. Even in like old Mega Man games, like it literally just makes you run slow and jump really high. You don't even swim, So it's like there's a lot of twists. So I like the idea of like, taking a full 3D approach or 2D and like, but giving you kind of more, I don't know. I like underwater games because I'm kind of afraid of beneath the ocean myself. I'm never getting into submarines, so.
And that's kind of the thing that I like about it is that like even in games where I feel like you have more mobility, like in Mario, where it's still like a fun like tactile, the 3D Marios in particular. Like I'm thinking like Sunshine and like the eel like level, but that's like a single thing. It's not really a main gameplay mechanic, but you have your like air meter or bar health bar or whatever. And like so there's always like a stress to like continue to like move to pockets of air or stuff. So like being in a game where it's like, no, I can just be down here as long as I want and take my time and explore and kind of have full mobility. Like I don't want to overplay how good this controls. Like there's still like a lot of weird positioning jank, and like there's plenty of times where you'll move up to an object that you think you can interact with and you're either like positioned just too high or too low or too whatever, that like there's still a little finessing that like it. But for the most part, this is one of the best like underwater controlling games that like still gives you a feeling of freedom and exploration and not necessarily like that level of stress that typically comes with underwater games.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point too, because it is either like that like Mario style, just slow down the pace, or Mario 3D style, like put the pressure on, like you're running out of air, you got to get to those pockets. And that does actually even make me think of like how much like it's only rarely in the game, but like I did love like in Mario when you would find one of those like green Koopa shells in one of the underwater stages in like Mario Galaxy or whatever. Yeah. And you could just kind of like steer it and kind of like just pilot it, and it had that like headlamp on the front. Like like that even felt so cool. And I remember thinking like, oh, I wish they had more of this. Or even like those manta ray stages in Mario Galaxy where you're like riding around those water planets, like there was some really cool stuff. So as much as like I feel like it's a common thing, like we were talking about earlier in the Discord or whatever, like water levels are the worst, or Randall, I think you brought that up. That's just kind of like the thing, and I don't know, there's some cool stuff to be had there. There's a lot of potential.
Hey, at least really this comes from the big budget company that then there's a lot of eyeballs on this as an example of how to do it, right? So that's a positive.
And I hope to God that it gets ripped off like so much, because like I also really appreciate that this comes like right after Tears of the Kingdom, because like the whole thing was that Genshin like originally came out as kind of a Breath of the Wild shameless ripoff.
Sure.
And like the fact that this is something completely different than Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like, thank God. One, and two, like now other people need to rip this off. Like Genshin has made its like money off of like ripping off every other subgenre and like mini game or event. So
incorporating it into.
I would love for someone else to take this and run with it.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, why don't we kick it over to Randall here for, I think, the first of us to dip into our resolution game? Or did you, I was going to say, did you dip into yours yet, John? I don't think so. So why don't we veer into that?
Yeah, I was looking at the calendar and like, this has got to happen. And like, Tears of the Kingdom is like, it's so open-ended. I'm like, I'm just going to play this for eternity. But then basketball's coming out in a freaking month. So like, I know myself. If I really,
I've seen you on the NBA 2K, even on the Switch. I'm like, what's Randall doing, man?
I'm wasting my time. That's what I'm doing.
But hey, when work's stressful, that's what you fire up. The game that you just know everything about it. And you're just like, I just want to turn my brain off.
Like tap into the lizard brain and push the buttons.
Manage my team.
I'm not even team managing. I'm mostly just going into like quick play of either like WNBA or NBA game. Just like let's just do that for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Nice. Just doing like exhibition games and stuff?
Yeah, on Switch, which is it's a little bit rough transition going from that.
Yeah.
that Switch version to the next gen version where they're actually putting their time and resources. But yay, the rosters are updated at least, so that's something.
Nice.
All that to say, though, is I have this very short window of time. Like, man, I gotta play my resolution game. Maybe I can knock it out within this little time frame, or at least get a good handle on it, And my resolution game was Dungeons and DoomKnights. It's an NES Homebrew. The thought being, it's not even like this particular game was like, oh my god, I have to play this particular game. It was more like, hey, I got this like analog NT Mini. I'm not playing this like hardly at all, and it's this awesome system. And I have all of these homebrew games, let alone the actual NES games. Like, I just want to get back into doing that. And like, this was just one of the more flagship examples and more recent homebrew purchases. I'm like, well, yeah, why not? Let me just plant my flag there, force myself to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So, it's got a, gold cartridge or whatever. That's fun. It costs too much money, but, that was old me that did that. So it's in my hands now anyway.
Right.
It's, it's kind of like, it's got a little bit of Zelda inspiration, a little bit of like old school Metroid inspiration.
Okay.
It's good. It's good. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I thought and this is me, I'm trying to grade on a curve. I'm not trying to compare this to Tears of the Kingdom or any like modern thing. I'm trying to hold it reasonably within its own context of being an 8-bit thing, but with, a little bit of modern sensibilities and, because it was developed and released in 2022, right? So
right, but still using the original retro hardware to run the thing.
Runs on an NES, like that's the whole point. So
right.
Do you know how big the like cartridge is in terms of like file size?
I know they actually have the save battery on it, so I give them credit for that. Ooh, like if they really wanted to cheap out, they could have just not done that and done a password system and called it retro. But they didn't do that, which is good. That's a good question. I see that it's, I've put probably a couple hours into it and I'm like, this is fine. I'm going to see this thing through. I already bought it. But, there's just like weird, it doesn't feel like there's that final level of polish on it necessarily. And it seems like in looking at it now in retrospect, in preparation to talk about it, I'm like, oh, they made it in this NES Maker, which is like, it's cool that those tools are available, but it also means that maybe there's some limitations as to how much they could do to customize the experience. Like, you can't pause, which is like, okay.
Interesting.
The music is like, it's good, interesting, but it gets kind of repetitive. And I've like different examples of that have come up. And again, I understand limited space, limited audio capabilities, but something like the original Legend of Zelda overworld music is not that big of a loop, but I've never been sick of that music. Whereas, so it's, there's that sort of thing in play, and I know I'm comparing a masterpiece to a
one of the greatest games ever made. Yeah.
But to be fair, there are definitely some modern homebrew things like and I don't think the soundtrack is necessarily a standout example in this game, but like Micro Mages we've talked about in the past on the podcast, like it is on Steam and you can buy it, and if nobody told you it was an NES game, you would just think, okay, this is retro inspired, retro aesthetic,
right?
Done deal arcade game, and you wouldn't think anything of it.
That was a top 3 game for me that year. Like
right.
I would hold to that still. Like that game rules, and that developer is incredible.
They have never missed. Yeah, they have never missed, and so there are homebrew games that live up to those retro standards and even outshine some of those retro, masterpiece examples.
Oh, totally. So. Yeah, I think there's a lot of homebrew stuff that gets released that I think easily outshines what was released then, like taking off the nostalgia goggles. No doubt about it.
Exactly,
and I guess maybe that's what I expected here, and I just didn't quite get that, There's a lot of they call it even retro humor, and that's a bit grating. It's just like,
I tend to feel that way as well.
Just like because I understand the reference doesn't make it funny. It's like, there's just they're like, it's overloaded with like Princess in Another Castle sort of jokes. And it's just like, hey guys, we're just like, we're slamming on some like 2003 Newgrounds humor, but like the bottom of that barrel sort of stuff. And like, this is 2022. This thing got released. Like, guys, come on, we can we can aim a little higher than what we're getting here.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you said, like there's almost like that last like pass of like having like some extra set of eyes. Like I'm sure they had play testing or more than that, but like some extra set of like outside eyes being like, I don't know about that. Let's tweak this. Let's hold like an editing pass.
Yeah,
or something like that. Whether it be polish or script or whatever.
I'll give a little bit of credit. Like there's both the top down and side scrolling sections of the game and stuff like that.
Okay.
And, they're trying to do, they're trying to do something there. There's like a secondary ability that's like this dog that you can release, and it's basically like a projectile. And the other like catch about that is if you're near like a little dog door, it can go through that and kind of circle around a little maze that might be past the dog door and open a switch or something that opens the door. There's some like interesting stuff that way, but then that same button, when you go to the side-scrolling mode, is your jump button, and then you have to press kind of an awkward combination of buttons to like get your dog to release otherwise. And it's just like, there's more than these buttons here. You didn't use select for anything. Like we couldn't have figured out a better way of going. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff, right? It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said too, there's sometimes a lot to live up to. I don't know how the packaging is and whatnot, but
it's
like a lot
really
of these
nice,
homebrew things
actually.
are done really nice.
Yeah.
And you open it up, and you're it's like building up your anticipation as you wait for it to get shipped to you and everything. You're kind of like hyping it up in your head before it gets there. And it's just like this is cool that it exists, but it's not like gonna be one of my favorite NES games.
No, it's not. And I'll say the packaging's kind of incredible. It's really well done. It's very professional. The packaging. So, and I'll see it through. I don't want to sell it yet or anything like that. I want to play through it because this is my resolution game and I could probably do that pretty quickly. So I'll probably talk about it again. Maybe my opinions will evolve a little bit, but some of that stuff I don't think is going away. So.
Okay. What would you say the strongest suit of the game is so far up to this point?
There's a little bit of cool, like some of like the cutscene work is not bad as far as some of the sprite work, I'll say.
Okay.
The sprite work's pretty decent. Like even parts of the music are kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. You don't hear that very often out of the NES, but then it just gets hella repetitive, and then you're like, oh,
right.
Now I just want to get into another section because I'm sick of hearing this.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I feel that.
It's hard to make games.
It is very hard to make
seriously.
games. It's very hard
especially
to make
on
games.
retro hardware,
Yes, when you are already actively limiting your abilities.
Yes. Which credit where credit's due there. It's very much not an easy thing to do, even with
let alone make a game in general.
Maker.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And cool that those tools, like you said, exist, that people can like make a game on, I think some of those tools you don't even need to know how to program.
Right.
I don't know if that's the case with NES Maker, but I think it is with like GB Studio.
There's a
Game Boy
gajillion of those Game Boy games coming out because of that. And like I grabbed the first few of them. Like I can't buy all of these games.
Yeah, you get in that mode of like I need all the homebrew retro stuff, and then you're like, wait, they're literally releasing these like regular games now. So you got to be a little more choosy with them. Yeah,
big time. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we're going to close things out with a little Pikmin chat this week. And it's actually kind of funny that you were talking about those dog doors, Randall, because that's just a perfect tie into some of the stuff that I've been doing in Pikmin 4 lately. Nice. I've been playing Pikmin 4. John's been playing some Pikmin 2. Did we talk about that a little last time when we talked some Pikmin? I can't remember if you had started that yet, John.
I don't know if I had. I think I had booted it up because I was late for the recording because I think I think
we talked about how blurry it was or something. Yeah. So I've been playing a bunch of, I shouldn't say a bunch more because I started working. So I've been like playing my evenings. That's actually been perfect to have like a game that I've been, kind of what I was hoping Tears of the Kingdom would be. Pikmin has kind of filled that void of just like, okay, here's my game of just, I have nothing to do. And now that I've played enough of it, I'm kind of like throwing on a podcast unless I'm getting to a new zone. Because I'm loving this game every second of it. There's a few moments where I'm like, I kind of like, I'll be like 75% through a day. And I guess you can just end a day at any point in time if you want to. But I'm just kind of like, in my head, I'm always like, I got to do the maximum amount of things that you can do in a day.
Yep.
And then I'm like, but do I really want to go in another cave that has up to 8 levels in it?
Yeah,
or,
dude.
Maybe more. I'm like, I don't know. And you can exit those at any time and then pick them up from where you left off or any floor that you've been to. So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. So as I've been going into the caves, I got to one part. And for the most part in Pikmin, like, you got to lose some Pikmin and, you got to let some die and it is what it is. But I got down to this one cave and there was this like crazy big blob boss thing. And I was like, okay. And it was only halfway through the cave. So I was like, oh, whatever. I had a bunch of Pikmin. I'm going to chuck them all at this big blob. And all of a sudden it just starts rolling side to side and just squashing all my Pikmin. And it's just like, I was like, no, I just lost. And I had some of my rock Pikmin, which were not like up to this point. I mean, you can create them in like those bubble orb flower. I forget what they're called, but they're like those flowers that you can like create. Take one type of Pikmin and morph it into another type with these flower bulbs or whatever.
Yeah.
And I haven't found any of those, but one cool thing is you can send Ochi to sniff out certain Pikmin type. Like you can send them to sniff out like I want some ice Pikmin or I want some whatever Pikmin type you want. I don't think you can do the main 3 types because you can just find those in the wild or create them with the little plants, the flower, number seeds or whatever. Yeah. But so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get some more. Anyways, this boss like wiped out like half my Pikmin. I was like, no. I was like, what do I do? I was like, it hasn't ended a day. Maybe I'll just shut off the game and start over the day or whatever. And then I was like, I don't know. So then I ended up hitting the minus button on the controller, which kind of brings up like the menu where you can like end a day or whatever. And it actually, so one of the options I saw, which I didn't know was there, maybe I just missed it in the tutorial or the little notes they give you, like the little quick hints or tips they give you on the loading screens or whatever. But you can rewind time is one of the features. Now, you can't just like free flow rewind time on like some of these retro emulators or like on the Switch Online or whatever. But you can pretty much like pick, there's like one option. You can either stay where you're at or you can go back to like the start of that floor of the cave, or if it's like something you've done prior to that. I can't remember what it was, but every time I went to it, I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's like the last thing I did. You can kind of like warp to like, oh, I didn't want to do those last things. Let me go back to that. And it like, to me, it just felt like so perfect. I don't know. Nice. It was just like, this is awesome. And then as I've been exploring, so now I'm kind of finding throughout the game, you're kind of rescuing more. And have you played any more of this at all, Randall, since last time we talked about it?
No, I don't think so. No, I kind of put Tears of the Kingdom back in there, and then,
okay.
2K23 has to come into play, so no.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep it mostly, I'll still stay pretty spoiler-free here, but like for the most part, you're rescuing a bunch of like your other crew members, which some of them are like kind of important crew members that are, either the captain of the ship or the doctor who I just rescued recently. So now that I've rescued the doctor, I can go out on night missions. So that's the other kind of main thing I wanted to talk about, which obviously in all the previous Pikmin games, like that's like, when the day timer ends, you got to like hightail it out of there. The monsters start going crazy. So now in this one, there's almost like these like termite mounds that you go in at night. So now that there's also like, as you go through the game, there's like some of the caves will be like these Dandori battles. And occasionally the Dandori is kind of like this split screen, like 2-player mode almost, where you're like battling against the computer. And I sort of wish that wasn't split screen. It feels like it doesn't necessarily need to be. Like when you're playing it, even in the campaign, you're just like, you're on the left, the computer's on the right. And it feels like you can kind of see the whole arena as it is. So,
yeah.
I don't know why they do it that way. If you're playing 2 players, I get it, but because I think you can play that mode. You can go to Android battle and play 2 players. I don't know if there's an online battle, but you can definitely play locally.
Yeah, right off like the beginning screen practically.
It's a whole separate mode. Yeah, which is really cool that they kind of seem to have focused on like a multiplayer aspect of
like
this.
A strategy versus experience.
Yeah, like a real it's really cool. Like, and the battles are really fun. Like you're kind of like, it's like a tug of war almost at a lot of times. Like they'll be like, oh, they have like 3 Pikmin carrying something back to their base. I'm gonna whip 5 Pikmin over there, and like I have more, so they're helping me carry it to my base now. But now you'll sometimes run into, I think they're calling these characters leaflings. So again, now that I've rescued the doctor, I can cure those leaflings, which are sort of like a character and a Pikmin hybrid. It's like a character-sized person, but they have like a leaf growing out of their head, and they're like a different color, kind of like almost look like a Muppet almost. Yeah. But then when you, at night, if you're able to rescue, so you get these glow Pikmin at night. They're the only type of Pikmin that you can use at night.
Ugh,
and they,
I love it. I love it.
It's so cool. So they're the only Pikmin too that like as soon as they complete their task, they just like teleport right back to your like squad immediately. Whoa. But it's real quick. So you basically have like a short amount of time to gather. There's like all these scattered gems that almost look like the star bits in like Mario Galaxy. Yeah. And I almost wonder if there's like some kind of crossover there. Like they look a lot like that. But you basically go gather those, and every like few of those you gather, you get more glow Pikmin. And then however many you have left, you end up getting like glow seeds that then you can take into the daytime with you and use the glow Pikmin during day missions. I haven't fully explored what you can do with those yet, but like however many you have, you get like a certain, like I think it's for every 3 you have, you get a seed or something like that. I haven't figured out the math on it. But anyways, like you're basically trying to protect that termite mound that the Pikmin are spawning out of. Like the beasts will just start like pretty quickly start rushing that. You get a few minutes to just like gather as many Pikmin as you can. You can keep gathering more, but they pretty much like are on the attack, almost like the Blood Moon in Breath of the Wild. Or I don't know if they do that in Tears of the Kingdom as well, but like like the enemies start going crazy, they start attacking. But then if you explore far enough, they call I forget what the regular ones are called now, but the fake ones are called trick knolls, and the other one's some other type of knoll. But you basically, like, if you explore enough, the enemies will instead go for like these kind of decoy trick knolls, but you can also use those trick knolls for the Pikmin to gather the resources and bring it back to, like, they're all like kind of interconnected somehow.
Pikmin's such a good game. God,
the night mode. The night mode is almost its own separate kind of game mode, essentially.
It's amazing.
Like not as different as like Genshin, the new underwater stuff
is
sounds,
there
but like
time limit then? Like I'm trying to picture how that aspect of it works. Like
it is a time limit. It's a much quicker time limit, and it actually ends if you're able to kill all the creatures on the map, or if the time runs out and you're just able to protect it the whole time. And then if you are, however you are able to complete it, you do get like this like glob of green jelly juice or whatever, which then the doctor is able to turn into a cure, and then cure the leafling if you've rescued any of the leaflings, and then turn it back into one of the characters, which sometimes will just be a random character. But even those random characters that you rescue will all, like, if you talk to them in the hub world, they'll give you like a new, you can do a series of challenges to essentially like, they're like, this character is the one that is the Dandori battle challenges. And actually that lets you go back into some of the Dandori battles or the caves. You can like replay them from the hub world as opposed to going back to like the zones, like, or the area and exploring and wasting like a day to go redo those and get a better score on them or something or whatever. I don't know. I've just been blown away with how much I've been loving this game. I just unlocked a new area. I haven't been there yet, but I've kind of explored the first 2 pretty thoroughly. I'm at like 75 to 85% on both of those.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty much exactly where I was before. I love the music. It's amazing. The music's one of my favorite parts of the game. Great. Yeah, nothing negative to say about this game. I'm still loving it. I didn't even say the thought about the transition about the dog door, because like in the caves you can send Ochi into some of these tunnels, which I didn't realize at first, but you can like separate the party,
like the tubes and
go
stuff?
through the tunnel. Yeah, there's like these tubes. I didn't realize, like, they don't really have like a dog or a bone or any kind of logo on them that I noticed anyways. I actually happened to notice it in one of the tips on the loading screen, but I still didn't think that that's what they were talking about. I just happened to try it.
Yeah, I think I did it accidentally.
Like, press a button
on one of those.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, nice. I warped through here. Now I can get around the gate that I wasn't able to get around with Ochi, or unlock, rescue some Pikmin over there. I now have the ability. Ochi can now pluck Pikmin out of the ground. Like, I've upgraded Ochi quite a bit. So many cool new items. I love this game. This is like top 10%er game. It's definitely my favorite Pikmin game. And it might be my favorite game on the Switch. I might go that far. It's that good of a video game for me. And now John's got me a little tempted to maybe pick up that Pikmin 1 and 2 physical collection that they're going to be releasing.
I didn't know that.
No, man. If you have it, still have it on GameCube, I'm gonna say play it on GameCube.
You know what? I don't know if I do, because I think I had the player's choice version, and I think I sold it at some point because I was like, I can't have these yellow labels on my shelf, the yellow spine. I need it to be all black label GameCube.
That's
games,
right, baby.
So I think I sold it along with Super Mario Sunshine. I think I can get that for a more reasonable price, but Pikmin 2, forget about it. I think that goes for a pretty penny these days on GameCube.
Yeah.
One thing that I was like thinking about when replaying 2 is that it feels like such a smaller game, and like that was really surprising, where like it was a lot of, as soon as like I started playing it, I was like, oh, I only need to get like 10,000 gold or coins to like beat the game, quote unquote. Of like, that is so tiny because you're getting like 100 per item, and I was like already like within like the second or third day it was like 20% of debt repaid, and I was like, good God, like these games were just so much smaller back then, and like it like, but it never felt like it was small. Like there's still tons of stuff to do, and there's like, but it was so much more reasonable to 100% a game back in like 2004 or so.
For real.
Like, oh man, it was a thing that like when I was started it back up again, I was like, oh, I was thinking, I was like, I'm just going to play like, you know, a little bit and get my feet back into play, like the habit of playing Pikmin so that I can move on to 3 and then 4. But like now that I'm playing, I'm like, I could reasonably beat this game again. And
you should.
That was like something that I really was not planning on doing, but I'm like, I'm so close to it, I might as well. And like the other thing that struck me, and I'm assuming that it's probably a through line through 4, is that I forgot how fucking funny this game is.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's just so hilarious of like every interaction. Like you're getting the way that days end, you get emails from like the people who are back on your home planet. And like all of it is just like the president of the corporation like sending you messages about how he's hiding underneath a bridge from the loan sharks, and he's asking you to please hurry up. Oh, just a great game, wonderful universe, love it, every bit of it.
And
Nintendo
it's cool to see.
Then.
I gotta say, this one really, with Pikmin 4, they really nail like they took the foot off the gas like just enough where like there's still a lot going on. There's like you can really separate your party a ton, and you can in 2 a little bit too, I think, quite a bit. But like between your main character and Ochi, you can really kind of split up. Divvy up the tasks if you want to, but you don't really need to. You can just like ride on Ochi and go around and tackle stuff and just do stuff at your own pace. And that's the one thing, even with one, especially with one, with that 30-day time limit always kind of looming over you. Like, I don't want to waste time doing anything stupid. Like anytime I'm not doing something productive feels like a waste, you know, where 2 kind of let the foot off the gas on that a little bit. Then I felt like 3 kind of put it back on a little bit, not necessarily on the timer, but just with all the juggling and just too much going on in this game. I feel like, just the fact that it lets you kind of play at your own pace. Even at one point, I can't remember if I talked about this last time, but I like hit this little, like, I think I did, about like the ice and the water. And I was like nudging this like one piece of, like I hit this thing into the water on accident that I was supposed to carry, and then none of the Pikmin could go into the water to pick it up. And I was like, oh no, I can't. Now I broke the game. I can't 100% it now. I'm never going to be able to get this out of the water unless I would have just waited 5 minutes to unlock the freaking water Pikmin. I sat there for like 20 minutes nudging it with Ochi's dash and just like nudging it out of the water on like a weird angle until I could get just enough red Pikmin in there to pick it up. I can't remember if I mentioned that last time, but it was so tedious, and I was like, why did I do that? I'm such an idiot.
I love how like tactical I am on the very first floor of a cave, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get everyone through this. I'm going to only take the Pikmin that I need for the specific element, and I'm gonna do this with such surgical precision. And by the final floor, I have like 10 Pikmin left, and I'm like, this is a nightmare.
Just get me out of here. Get me out of here in one piece. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah,
it's all about the mission.
Yeah, I love that series so much. It's definitely, I think I am going to actually end up probably picking up that collection on Switch. I did look it up. It's $50. So 1 and 2.
They're doing it physically?
Not a steal, but yeah, they are doing it physical. I don't know if it's out yet, but knowing that I could have all 4 Pikmin on one console, even though I don't own 3 on there yet, I still got it only on the Wii U. And I still think it's probably best played there with that tablet, because I remember being able to just flat out draw paths for the characters. So, and to be fair, you can do that in Pikmin 4, like I was saying last time. You can like kind of you can't draw it. Maybe you can if it's on the touchscreen mode or if you're playing handheld, but you can just kind of pick a point on the map, press A, and you just kind of auto travel there.
Yep.
And you can do that with both, Ochi and your character individually. So,
but it's nice that like you can ride Ochi, and Ochi makes you so much faster with traversal. I'd never felt the need to split and like, oh my God, I have so many things I have to do in this time limit. So let me split up these 2 characters. Like, no, Ochi's fast enough that like, let's just go do the most important thing. And then like, oh shoot, we still got a lot of time left. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, and Ochi gives you the ability to jump too. So a lot of times you need to be kind of teamed up to be able to jump up, not super high, but you can get up little lips that you otherwise can't. So
and smash his big old body into stuff.
Yeah, I upgraded that. I keep, but every time I think like I'm like, all right, I'm maxed out on this, and then it's like, oh wait, we just added another. Like Ochi's maxed out, and you're like, not yet. We got an extra max buff or whatever. And it's like just another tier of it. It's like, oh my god, this is crazy. That's one thing I do wish that I could maybe reallocate some of the points I've spent on Ochi. Like, I wish I wouldn't have leaned into that so hard because now the more expensive upgrades cost even more, and I'm like, now I wish I would have had some of those other things, but I've already leaned into this, so I feel like I should just keep going that route. So, but yeah, Pikmin's the best.
It's quality.
Hope we get. I don't care. I don't even care if we get one more. I was gonna say I hope we get one more, but I'm just happy we got as many as we got. So.
Yeah, baby.
But I don't know. Any more video games chit chat tonight, guys, or wrap it up early here?
That's it.
Yeah, good deal. So yeah. As always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com, and we're pretty much everywhere else on the internet. Just look up Pursuing Pixels, and otherwise, we'll catch you next week. And until then, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
It's not the same having to work all day and then come and do a podcast.
No, it's not.
Fucking fried. Oh man.
Yep.
All right. Here we go.